If you found yourself asking, is this real? Can I do this? How does this even work? You're not alone. This episode is about lifting the veil and answering your questions. Welcome to Guided Abroad, where I bring you in on the intuitive downloads, bold decisions, and vulnerable moments that unfold when Spirit takes the lead. This is my personal story, but it could be yours too, because we all have the ability to receive and follow inner guidance. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Over the last several weeks since we launched the podcast, I've started to get comments, questions, observations coming in. So I wanted to pause and answer some of those questions in this forum, in the podcast. So those of you that maybe didn't have my contact information or only thought the questions to yourself would get the answers as well. The first question is, wait, didn't I just see you in North Carolina? I thought you were in Morocco. I'm so confused. And that's completely understandable. There's a number of things contributing to this confusion. It's important to me that this podcast, Guided Abroad, is understood and experienced as a living lab. That we're doing these recordings in real time throughout my journey without skipping any major steps. And so I am recording them as I go along and releasing them in the same order. It's about 4 to 6 weeks after I have an experience that you're listening to the experience. But that doesn't make it any less real time or any less true to exactly what has happened. And of course, divine timing doesn't happen on a regular schedule. There are periods, particularly like in the scouting trip, where I'm recording about every 3 days. And then now that I'm home, I'm recording less frequently because there's less activity that's relevant to the podcast happening. In the real world timeline, the physical timeline right now, I've already completed my entire scouting trip and I'm at home, working on the next steps, which I'm not going to say much about because I don't want to give any spoilers. Next question. Why don't more healers talk openly about the healing process? I don't think it's in an intent to hide anything from anyone. It's just hard to talk about, right? There's a lot of room for misinterpretation. Our language isn't very good at speaking about these things. We don't have a lot of words in common language that refer to these types of experiences. So that's the biggest challenge. Of course, there's also some subconscious drivers, perhaps, where healers may find that it's contradictory to their desire to have sustainable income, to have you be self-guided. That's a possibility. I think the other big driver that's bigger than the subconscious one is simply that the divine works in mysterious ways. So we don't always know exactly why something worked. All we know is that it did work. We can create a narrative afterwards about why it worked, but that isn't always something that we could back up or make repeatable every time. In our world that really values, for good reason, the scientific method, making it repeatable carries a lot of weight. The next one is, you made healing and shadow work look easy. Was it really that fast? This is a great question because a lot of people have curiosity about healing and shadow work, and they don't really know where to get their expectations of what it would be like so that they know whether they want to go down this path. It can happen incredibly quickly. I have some practitioners that I work with for certain types of clearings that it is almost instantaneous, just in minutes. And in other cases, when we're talking about, for example, a pattern that's been put into place across multiple lifetimes, it can require that you clear the karmic imprint, but then you have to do a lot of work on the behavioral patterns that you've established. That can take many returns. You might have to come back to that many times over months or years to really resolve it. The other thing that's worth bringing up is we often think we've resolved something, which we have, only to discover something underneath that is even meatier, stickier, more inherent to who we are, that now we do that next layer. So there's this peeling back of layers experience when you're doing healing and shadow work. You may resolve the thing you came for, only to discover that there is a meatier, bigger, deeper thing underneath it, and you won't resolve the true root issue until you continue to peel those back. So, is it fast? Is it slow? It depends. What can you expect? You can expect that it's a journey. Next one. How do you know the healing actually worked? How can I trust what I'm hearing or feeling? I imagine a lot of people have this curiosity. It's not something that's talked a lot about. We often might go to an appointment, see a practitioner, even a doctor, right? Modern medicine is equally mysterious sometimes. And we go through the exercise and then we think, well, I guess it worked, and you walk away. There isn't a good feedback cycle to find out, did it work? How well did it work? What's left to do? And that's why I really like working with guides. And that might raise for you some people that have questions of what even is a guide? Who are you talking to? And this is something that can be framed a lot of different ways. In some audiences, there is a greater receptivity to hearing that guides are just a piece of you, an aspect of your consciousness. In other audiences, it may be that this is tapping into universal consciousness. Others are going to be more receptive to, these are my ancestors, or these are gods that I'm speaking to. In my world, it's all of these. I can feel the difference between each one, but recognizing that all of us ultimately are part of universal consciousness. When you trace it back all the way to the origins, me and my departed ancestor who's passed over ultimately are both part of universal consciousness. We are two drops of water that are also the sea. So it's not really a one or the other, it's a yes and. So how do you start to trust the feelings and the information that you are receiving? And how do you know it actually worked? You've heard me in some of the episodes testing in about how complete am I? For example, I think I did a testing of 80 versus 90 versus 100% complete. And I'm responding to, or I'm reading my highest self, my soul response of a yes-no energetic response, which is in like frequency with the current state of the situation. And you can roll forward time as well and say, well, if that's what it is right now, but what if we look again in 24 or 48 hours? In 24 or 48 hours, is it now 80 or 90 or 100% complete? Those tests allow you to find out where you're at, but more importantly, you feel it. When healing has occurred, it's immediately has a different feeling in your body, in your energy. It's a sensory experience, and it's very hard to deny your sensory experience. On the other hand, if you're not so trusting yet, or maybe you get confused between sensory and emotional experiences, it can be beneficial to spend some time building discernment and building trust with yourself through use of your discernment. And one way that you could do that is starting to monitor. So really put a lot of attention on your emotional experiences, how you're feeling in your body, both the embodied sensory experience and the emotional experience, getting practiced at articulating that. Don't just say, I feel good or bad or happy or sad. Like, get sophisticated with the language so you're really differentiating between different emotional states and different feelings in your body. Over time, you'll start to notice which ones have a sense of originating from you versus coming through you from somewhere else. Because some things that we experience, we're picking up from those around us, or we're picking up from collective consciousness, the state of the world at the moment. So not everything is originating from us. And by improving your awareness on these things, you start to gain discernment. And through discernment, then you begin to trust, because you map that discernment to what you actually experience in the world. Next question. What does this have to do with leadership or a better life? I really see the two as united and supportive of each other, in the sense that intuitive work, learning to understand and trust who you are inherently, your unique gifts, and the ability to collect and influence energy and information beyond your physical body will make you a powerful, unstoppable, unshakable leader with a softness that allows you to foster the best in others. What I want to see in you is an innate capacity to know that you are resilient, that you're adaptable in the right ways, and that you understand how you are valued in the world and have joy as you pursue that value. These things don't come from validation from outside. I mean, they can temporarily, but it doesn't have the same juice to it. It's not as real as what comes from the inside. So I encourage every one of you to invest 10 minutes a day into growing, first removing any patterns and habits and other emotional barriers that may exist to your clear connection to your intuition and your knowing and your energetic understanding of the world. And then fostering and strengthening that connection so that you have that deep self-love and unconditional understanding of where you're going to guide you in every day. And the last question is, where do I start? There's a lot of places you can start. We talked about starting with noticing your emotions and articulating and describing them, your emotions and feelings. And we've talked about spending a few minutes a day doing some of the work of removing the barriers and the lenses that are filtering information for you so that you can have that clear connection. Those are all things that you can start. And I hope that you'll keep following the podcast, because there's about to be a big twist in the next episode. And we have a whole journey to take after this scouting trip. I really hope to have you by my side as we do it. Thanks for listening. So glad you're here.
You've been listening to Guided Abroad with me, Sarah Cook, where spirit and intuition lead the way. Did something in today's episode spark your curiosity or resonate deeply? I'd love to hear about it. And your story or question might even shape a future episode. And subscribe so you won't miss what happens next. You know, it's easy to feel alone on the spiritual journey. I'm so glad that we have each other. Thanks for being here.